So, welcome to Epic Begins with One Step Forward with the fabulous, the amazing, the outstanding Xander Sprague. And I'm your host, Aurora Winter. And today we're going to talk about a very interesting topic that people debate hotly, which is whether you should lean into your strengths or whether you should learn how to do things that you're crap at. Xander's got a very definite idea about that. So really looking forward to sharing those insights about what you should do with your strengths. Leverage them or not. But first, before we get into all that juicy content, we want to get the update from Xander about what he has achieved in the last week. And again, to update you, or for those of you who are not been listening to the entire series, go back and listen to it, by the way. Xander has embarked on the hero's journey of becoming a great, wonderful, in-demand public speaker during the most difficult period that he could have possibly chosen during the pandemic in 2020. But he will not be denied. So we want to follow along on his progress, on how it's coming along, what's working well, what's maybe not working so well for him. So what's your update from the past week, Xander?
Well, Aurora, it was a good week. I did a interview with my friend Heidi Horsley for Epic Unexpected. That was a really fun thing. I've set up another call with a friend of mine, Kelly Preen, who's a actor, writer, director. That's going to be next Tuesday. Really excited about recording that with him, working with him on that. I spent some time going through music, I guess we'll call them bumpers or whatever, for what the audience will be like, oh, that's how that intro and outro go. But you have to go through a whole lot of music to sit there and say what captures the Epic Begins with One Step Forward kind of theme. So I came up with some. I shared it with Aurora. We're both sort of reviewing it to sort of have that top, one or two songs that were like, oh, that's really good. And
there's so many choices, right? When you're doing something creative, like creating your own podcast and your book and your brand. And the thing about the music, why I want to listen again, is it's a different kind of thing, a piece of music that you love for years versus one that might, be fun the first time you listen to it, but might grow stale or annoying. So I'm sure we made a great choice.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And if you think about how music and stuff really sets the mood. I mean, I'll take, for example, the theme song for Friends.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so recognizable instantly.
Absolutely. And you go, well, of course, that's the Friends theme or Cheers or whatever. And so, and even as I'm watching all these different YouTube videos, they're the people that I'm watching, and I'm like, oh, that's great music. That really captures what this is about. And, but it is challenging because you're like, well, do I go for the epic dramatic? Do I go for the upbeat? Do I go, and so I gave us a variety of choices. So
because you're both epic as well as enthusiastic. So it's got to hit both those notes.
It does. And just sort of continuing to plug away. I got a letter from the Board of Behavioral Sciences. I'm going for my licensing, so I turned in all my hours. And I got a letter back saying, we need these, they needed a W-2 that I had forgotten to put in. And then of course I couldn't find it. And then I had to have something else from another internship. Luckily, I was able to get everything really quite easily, and I sent that back off. So hopefully that's, that will be it. And then I'll get a decision and find out that I'm able to take the licensing exam, which is all part of my epic journey.
It is part of your epic journey, and I know you really want to have that on your book. And what will you be licensed as for the benefit of the listeners?
I will be a licensed professional clinical counselor,
Yes, you
or
will be.
LPCC, as they call it here in California. Sometimes it's a PCC, professional clinical counselor. But really looking forward to. I can't say I'm really looking forward to taking the exam, but I'm looking forward to being licensed.
Yeah, looking forward to getting that journey done because you had to do what, 2,000 hours?
3,000 hours of
Wow,
internship.
that's crazy.
And, I've already passed, in the first year, I took and passed the law and ethics exam. And after all of this time, now I have to take a exam. But the good thing is then you're licensed and I
Well,
get to
the law and
complete.
ethics must have been a slam dunk for you. Isn't your dad a judge?
My dad was a judge indeed, yes. But you still have to, you still have to study really hard, and it's always quite nerve-wracking,
Yeah.
to go in and be like, ah. And of course, the good and the bad is, being that it's an online exam, you find out instantaneously whether you're passed or not.
Oh,
Um,
well, that's kind of good. You don't
well,
have
it
to
is good, but
wait.
then if you didn't pass, then you're in your car feeling all like, oh no.
True. But you really just wanted to have that, as a credential so that as a speaker or as a trainer, you can have those letters and assure people because you're primarily going to be the go-to speaker, author, coach, correct?
Absolutely, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely, and I mean, it certainly helps that I could do private practice. I could go in and help people, and yes, but it is more of the to show. I guess, I mean, the titles do make a difference. It's amazing how. As a speaker, having your own book makes you somehow a better speaker.
Well, people like to know the stamp of approval. All right, so
Yeah.
that's quite a bit. Anything else to share?
Uh, no, I mean, it was a good week. I was, started getting more exercise. Once the air started to clear a little, which always I feel so much better when I'm moving. So,
Yeah, it's funny how important it is to breathe.
huh?
And we did have a separate call around just making sure we were on track with the schedule for your launch of your book with the spoken author program, and that's all looking great. So, all right, so let's get to it. What do you think? Should people lean into their strengths or should they lean into their weaknesses and double down on learning in those areas that they're not as strong?
In a surprising revelation, I will say lean into your strengths because it's a heck of a lot more positive and it's a lot more fun.
Yeah.
I think um, anything that we do, if it is a strength of ours, it doesn't seem nearly as much work.
Yeah, it's
Um,
joyful and easy.
yeah, I mean, doing this, I love this. I'm in my wheelhouse. I'm totally catering to my strengths. You were tweaking me last week about me having my own microphone because I like to be on mic, and that is one of my strengths. And I think that's um, that shows when we're doing something that is innately part of who we are. It shows.
Well, plus then we can get into the flow, into that zone where you can be 5 times as creative and 5 times as productive, according to some studies by Stephen Kotler and that group around the neuroscience of flow. But also, I really believe if we are always learning on the things that we're not good at, we're robbing somebody else of their, divine life mission. Because everybody's been given some unique gift. So if we just play in the areas or express the areas that are our unique strengths, I mean, they could be 10 times, 20 times, 50 times, 100 times stronger than our areas of weakness.
Absolutely. And I know as a small business owner, there's obviously many hats I have to wear. I firmly believe in I should be spending at least 75% of my day in my strength areas.
Mm-hmm.
And to the extent that I can offload the stuff that is much more difficult for me for someone else who that is the thing that they do well. So, I mean, there are people who are really, really good at marketing. Okay. I can do marketing. I've done it for 20 years. It's just a lot more effort for me to get out and do that.
A
And
lot of people hate to be at the front of the room, but you
yeah,
shine. You're like, give
yeah,
me the mic. I've got it.
exactly. What do you mean? I've been up here for an hour talking. I just started.
What do you think about that? I don't know if it's actually true or if it's just an old wives' tale that people are more afraid of public speaking than death.
I have heard so many, I mean, there are so many studies where, public speaking ranks up there as like the top one or two fears that people have. And I'm baffled by that. I have to be honest. I'm like, how can you not absolutely love that there are 5 people or 5,000 people listening to you? Oh my gosh, that is so.
That's so your happy place. I don't know if people are afraid of public speaking as much as afraid of being judged. Were you ever afraid of public speaking or reticent about it? Or has it always been a strength?
I think it's always been a strength. I mean, as I was growing up, my father was a state legislator in Massachusetts. So from a young age, I was helping him to campaign. So I was around adults. I had to learn how to talk to adults. And so I guess I sort of, it's always been part of my life. So I haven't been like, oh my God, I can't believe I have to do this.
You're like, oh my
And
God, I get to do this. Give me the mic.
yeah, exactly. And my father was, I certainly think there's, some hereditary stuff. My father loved a good audience. He was a very good storyteller, could command a room, very good, orator, was asked many times to speak in many places. So, I mean, I think there's, to some extent, like sort of I inherited some of that, but I also think it's just part of who I am. I've helped many, many people with presentation skills because it is one of my strengths. I'm good at it. I'm able to sit there and say, oh, okay, look over here and now look here and help people to do it. One of the most painful things for me, Aurora, is sitting in an audience with a bad speaker.
Mm.
It is like fingernails on a chalkboard for me. I stop listening to what they're doing and am honed in on what's not going right. And I know that's terrible, but I mean,
Well, you're a professional, so those things would stand out to you. What do you think makes a good speaker versus a bad speaker that's fingernails on a chalkboard for you?
Some of it's got to do with appearing to be relaxed.
Mm-hmm.
People get up and they get nervous, and funny thing happens when you get nervous. All of a sudden you really start talking fast, because if I talk really fast, then I can get off the stage and people really won't be seeing me anymore. But then all of a sudden your message is lost because people don't understand what you're saying because you're talking really fast. Then there's what I call the caged animal, the person who knows that they need to move. So now they're pacing back and forth all the time. And it's fine to move on the stage. You should be moving to the stage and drawing people's attention versus standing there stiff. But the people who are just like doing laps and stuff, it gets distracting.
Yeah, it's not the gym.
And also the monotone speaker. Hello, Aurora. My name is Xander. I'm here to talk about Epic Begins with One
Yeah,
Step
yeah,
Forward.
that's not going to work. Well, it's interesting because some people who are very smart have kind of been trained to be more monotone because as a professional, they don't want to be perceived as a performer or overly emotional. I'm talking about, lawyers or judges or doctors, these kinds of people. What's your experience with that? Because I work on getting them, okay, let's have more life on that.
Well, interestingly, I spent 20 years working in the high-tech industry
Hmm.
and spent a lot of that time doing technical education, teaching people how to use software. And I had to work with, a lot of times I had to do presentations with engineers who were really, really smart about the software that we were teaching them, but their presentation skills were, oh my gosh, like you
Those are
know,
my ideal clients. Really, really smart, but they definitely need help with their message.
right. But sometimes you could lead the horse to water, you could shove its head into the trough, but you just can't get them to drink. And they're putting up PowerPoints that are in like 8-point font because I got to get everything on there. And I'm like, look, I'm sitting 20 feet away. I can't read that. Never mind the person in the back row who can't read it. Or they put it up in red.
Oh my God.
We're
They
in a
haven't heard the,
semi-dark room, not going to be able to see it.
I like the 5 by 5 rule. No more than 5 lines and no more than 5 words on each line.
Right. And the people who don't realize that PowerPoint is a aid to your speech. It should not be, because frankly, everyone's reading what you put up there. So if you say everything that's on your slide, you don't need to do a presentation.
Yeah. Okay. So that would not be those
You
engineer
know,
strengths.
but interestingly, many years ago,
Uh-huh.
when I was working at Intel, we did this. Um, we did this thing. It's now called the Clifton Strengths Finder.
Mm-hmm.
It was just known as Strengths Finder before, and that was so illuminating because this is a test that you can go do. I'll have a link to the website. I'll talk about the website later, but you go answer all these questions and then you get basically your top 6 strengths, which are
I love that. It's so
the
simple.
areas that are where you're good at. And so I looked I couldn't find the report, and I even contacted Clifton Strengths Finders and said, can you find this report? And I gave them the possible email addresses. We couldn't find it, but there are 3 that my top 3. I remember, I've always remembered my top 3.
Uh-huh.
So my top was what they call woo.
That is so good for a speaker. That's
Oh, it's so
critical.
good. And that when I first took it, I wasn't sure. I was like, well, woo, and I read the definition and stuff, and I was like, oh, that's not going to be good. And my manager and her manager were like, oh my God, we have a woo on the team. This is great. Oh my God. It was like the thing, the braggy point for them to go, oh, I've got a woo on my team.
Yeah, woos are great. They've got the charisma.
And
They make everybody feel good. They're charming. They're kind of sparkly.
what's funny is I heard this. It's not an official acronym, but it was actually, I liked it. WOO stands for winning others over.
Mm-hmm. That's
And
good.
you know, the whole idea of woo is I guess I am good at it. I am able to get people to do the things that I need to have done because of my ability to communicate and influence. And I look back and say the in my life overall, not just professionally, but just personally, the things that I am able to get done which shouldn't get done, like get upgraded on an airplane or in a hotel, get a slightly better room, or get a room with a view, even though that wasn't what
Right, because
my
people.
reservation was for.
Uh-huh.
And that's all the woo. That's the making people feel good and powerful. And then they're like, oh, I want to do something for you. You're making me feel good, right?
Or like
And it's
getting me to
not,
get a new
it's all
camera.
very authentic. So it's not like I'm just snowing them over. So I want to
I
make sure.
spoke over you. You want to say that again?
Huh?
I said I spoke over you. Do you want to say that again?
Yeah. So I'm not trying to snow them. I'm just, I'm authentic in how I'm treating someone. I mean, one of the things that I do, if I want something, is I will ask, if there's anything. I'll say it's my birthday or it's a special occasion. Let's say if I'm checking into a hotel, is there anything that you could do for me?
Hmm.
And I've been so successful at getting, sometimes I might get some chocolate covered strawberry sent up, or sparkling wine, or get a room upgrade. And if they can't do it, I'm completely understanding. I'm not upset. I'm asking for a favor. If they can do it, I'm very grateful. And then I return that by filling out a comment card, saying how this person was so very helpful and went above and beyond. And I know that, having worked in a hotel, you get a comment card, especially as a front desk person, where a guest says that you did a good job. That does a lot for
Right. So
you.
you make it. Yeah. I think people should pay attention to that line. So it's a special occasion. Is there anything you could do for me?
Yeah.
Perfect. And it's not bossy or manipulative. What's your second strength?
The second one, and I know, again, positivity. Imagine that.
God of enthusiasm. Yes. Would be positive.
Exactly.
All
And,
right.
and, and in some of those general definitions of that, according to Clifton, is generous with praise, quick to smile,
That's true.
and a contagiousness of positivity, and just
That's
people.
absolutely true.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
It's so funny when you start to investigate your strengths, you're like, absolutely, yes.
Right.
That's a
And then you're leaning into them by being a speaker and by being, the voice for positivity and smiling. That totally makes sense. And what's number 3?
number 3, communication. Away with words.
So being a go-to author, speaker, coach totally makes sense. What other ways do you lean into communication besides public speaking?
Well, I mean, there is my writing, which is harder. There's obviously the podcast. There's my work as a mental health professional.
Mm-hmm.
I just spent 5 years doing internships in school-based settings. So I was talking with middle school and high school students, and I heard from some of my clients, when they would spontaneously give feedback, that it was always helpful because I was talking with them. It was a conversation. It wasn't other people. Other therapists are very much, they'll just ask a question, but they won't sort of personalize it. And I've always felt that therapy is a conversation. If you feel comfortable, you're a lot more willing to go into the areas where you're having a challenge.
Well, you're very open and curious and non-judgmental. So I don't think people would feel interrogated when you ask them. They would feel like, oh, he likes me. He's got all this positive woo. He wants to know more.
Yeah, and I had clients who said they had other therapists, but they really enjoyed working with me. I had some who came back multiple years because they just said they got a lot out of our sessions, which made me feel very good because that's what I'm trying to do, is help them. And if what I'm doing is helping them. So
Yeah. And now you'll be able to do that, on a bigger stage, helping one to many instead of one to one.
1-to-1. Absolutely.
Well, in a second, I'm going to ask you about things that are not your strengths.
Yeah.